What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? And Chris Abacon.
What's going on, everybody?
Hey, so please continue to tune in Monday and Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays Ask Us as Pete. So that's where I have an interview with someone who is in the community. So in this case, last week was with Alan Wesley, so please tune in for that one. Really interesting conversation about generative AI and data management. So definitely tune in for that one. And then this week, we have another special guest. So tune in for that as well. And then Friday's everything else, movies, books, games, all that cool stuff. So non-cybersecurity related. Without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article actually comes from WGNTV.com, which is a station out of Chicago, actually. And it's written by Kelly Davis and Eli Ong. And the title of this one was Day 3 of Network Outage at Lurie Children's Hospital. So a little behind the scenes, we are a couple days after this, right? So they're actually in day 5 of this now, right? So what's actually going on is there's a network outage affecting Lurie Children's Hospital. And it's affecting their internet, phone, email usage. And the hospital came out and finally acknowledged the source of it, right? If you had to take a guess, if we're talking about it, if you had to take a guess on what the source was, right? Cybersecurity issue, right? That's what it's our bread and butter, right? It's what we do. So, and we've had this before, right? We've had it before where we've had hospitals and emergency services that have had, things go down where people aren't able to make appointments or make calls and things of that nature. And it's kind of the same thing here, right? So for 3 days when they wrote this article, it was a matter of people weren't able to set up appointments for things that are needed. And again, it's a children's hospital, right? So like for me, it just hits a little bit closer to home, right? Like if you have children, you feel a little bit more about this, right? Again, they're without their services, right? Can't do anything. There's a network outage impacting the phone, internet services, right? So people even just going online to be able to set up appointments, they can't do that, right? They have outpatient centers around the city, right? Like in Chicago, Chicago, and parents can't get access, right, to different things. So this sucks. They haven't said the reason for the cybersecurity issue, right? They just say it's a cybersecurity issue, and they are working it. But they have workarounds, right? Like they have some phone lines you can call. They have a 1-800 number, right? And they have hours listed on here to where you can try to contact them, to kind of make certain things happen, right? And they talk about, call this number during this time for non-urgent patient requests and care questions, information regarding scheduled patient appointments, prescription refills. So they're getting some capability, but they don't have the full capabilities, right? Because in this day and age, what do? We rely on computers to automate and do a lot of this stuff for us, right? So this is why this hurts so much, right? Because we become so reliable on technology, and when you have a cybersecurity issue like this, things don't run like they need to, right? With us being in such a connected society, but they're working it. They're trying to make sure they get everything back up and running as soon as possible. But in the article here, they've done some interviews and they talk to people that say, hey, it may be a long time before everything is like 100% back online, several months or so. So this is what happens when you have, different cybersecurity issues and things like that right now. People, I'm speaking to companies, not individual people. Like we need to do better when it comes to cybersecurity. And they had different steps, right? Like they had disaster recovery and things like that. That they were practicing for this children's hospital, but still they're in a situation where their customers can't access their medical needs, and that sucks. You know what I mean? But Chris, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so really my first thoughts are, I think this has happened to plenty of medical institutions before, right? And really highlights that, in my opinion, the healthcare industry, specifically hospitals, I think they're huge targets, right? I think they're soft targets in this case, right? There's a lot of potential opportunities for intrusion or, compromise at hospitals. So think about it. How many medical devices are out there that, aren't really updated all the time? Or like, even if you've ever been to a clinic, right? You'll be alone in a room, and there's a computer sitting there right in front of you. All it takes is one, malicious hacker or somebody that is trying to compromise the system, just plugs in something into that computer that you're left alone in the room with. Right? Yeah, they may have the security and things like that, but at the same time, there's just so many entry points for attack in a hospital. So that's one thing. So it's the physical devices. And secondly, I want to say like just like the culture of a hospital, right? They accept people inside. They want to help people, right? So a lot of the times their focus isn't on cybersecurity. It's, hey, how can I help the patient that's about to come to me and say, hey, I'm sick. They're not going to think they're trying to be hackers or something like that. So it wouldn't. It's not the same. It's not the same mindset, right? To come at clients with I'm sorry, patients with a security focused mindset. Now being cognizant in that. I mean that is going to be a challenge for the healthcare industry. I think there needs to be some type of training, awareness training that's specific to healthcare to maybe see if there's any potential indications of social engineering compromise, right? Because it's not in the forefront of a lot of medical professionals, right? They come to cybersecurity professionals to do this stuff, but cybersecurity professionals aren't everywhere, right? um
You
and
bring up
then
you bring up a good point, Chris, because the only thing they care about is protection of
yeah,
different information, right? Like they're not talking about prevention; it's more protection of PHI, PII,
correct,
that nature. Yeah, you're right.
right. And then and I think also like how many OT technologies are there. And also one thing too is that a lot of the hospitals they have smaller satellite clinics, right, that are part of it, right? And we don't know the level of security, um, spread throughout that entire organization, right? So I just think that really the culture needs to at least have some type of awareness in cybersecurity, at least take it maybe a little bit more seriously, but at the same time it's difficult because there's a lot of entry points, there's a lot of potential pain points in the healthcare industry for cybersecurity attack.
And a lot of them are becoming for profit too when it comes to these hospitals, man. They're becoming for profit. So like it's just not in the budget, is what it ends up coming down to, right? Like
Hmm.
cybersecurity, we see these big companies that are just dumping whole IT departments, you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
you know, so
I mean, we did this purchase cybersecurity insurance, and they probably go through some type of high trust or HIPAA assessment, right? So I mean, it just goes to show you that compliance isn't cybersecurity, right? It's a part of it, right? But cybersecurity is as a business process, and it's a mindset throughout, and it needs to come from the top down, right? It needs to come from the top. Like when you're like you're saying, if it's a for profit, they're going to say, hey, cybersecurity isn't bringing in money, right? I mean, it protects, right? But really that analysis has to be done and it needs to be taken more seriously.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I like the point that compliance doesn't necessarily make you secure, right? It should. That's its intent.
Right.
But if you're just practicing for the test, then you're not actually applying those principles all the time. So not to specifically bash this hospital, because we don't know exactly what the entry point was, but
Correct.
it's a prevailing issue. Like hospitals are notoriously outdated. They have a lot of end of life devices and equipment because just like you said, their focus is on patient care, right? Like might have state-of-the-art um, patient equipment, right? But does it necessarily mean that they're not running on Windows 95? And that's what we
Mhm.
saw over in the UK with the WannaCry. They were severely outdated, and that was the easiest entry point was to attack end of life Microsoft products. So there has to be a balance there. Like I can see it where because I have slight bias, right? I have a lot of medical professionals in my family, and their focus is on patient care, which it should be. And I always think of like they are probably getting cybersecurity awareness challenges and things of that nature. But again, everybody's just trying to get through the CBT, right? But not necessarily taking that information and wanting to, yeah, right. It's just clicking through the
Click through.
CBT. They're not necessarily taking that 100% of information, which if I had to have a mental split, yeah, I want you 70-30 focused on not killing the patient or saving them, right? But
Correct.
you still have to have in the back of your mind that just from a everyday standpoint, how does cybersecurity affect me? How do I protect myself? And then you can use that to apply it to patient records and things of that nature, making sure, like you said, you don't leave the computer unlocked in front of a patient who's sitting in the waiting room, things of that nature. I think the VA probably has it the best because they have to use credentials to log in and out, right? So when they leave the room, they pull their card. I don't necessarily believe that's in all hospitals. I've never seen it before. I've never seen some kind of token or certificate by a civilian medical professional. So maybe that's the way to lock that portion down. But I think at the end of the day, it, like you said, it's you got to put your money where your mouth is. And I know that there is a specific hospital group here in the area, which is notoriously has high turnover of their cybersecurity and IT department because they do not put money into it. So if you go to Glassdoor and say, hey, because I looked into it, I was like, oh, I could just work down the street. I looked with the Glassdoor and all the reviews were bad. They were like, they do not give us money. They do not put money into our departments. They lay us off because they're like the first line of cuts comes from that department as opposed to, you know, obviously doctors and nurses and things of that nature because they're for profit. So it's like, how do we how do we do both? How do we protect our patients, both physical needs, right, which is paramount, like you come in the hospital because something is wrong or you're ailing or even preventative, but also how do we prevent this from happening where you know, children's hospitals are being targeted because they are soft targets.
I think I think a way that this could be addressed, right, is the medical professionals themselves, right? For them to think ahead and say, how much harder would it be for me if I don't have all these tools at my disposal, right? So if for whatever reason you can't use the computer that just sends an order down to the lab, to the pharmacy or whatever, how much harder is it going to be for you to send runners or for you to be the runner to take a paper, you know, copy of something down? You know what I mean? So if they go that way, right, say, okay, this makes it this much harder for us. Therefore, they address it to, you know, the directors in the hospital to say, this is what we need to be doing. And this is how you can lose money, because the second that this happens and then people see they're not getting the service from us, they're going to take their insurance elsewhere. Right. Like, so you lose money. That's how you talk to the people that are
Right, to the C-suite.
right. This is how, yeah, to the C-suite. Exactly. This is how we're going to lose money if this happens to us. Like, invest that. Let's call it $500,000 a year, right? For you to make a billion. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's the way that they should go about doing it.
But yeah, I was just thinking about it, like how you got like potentially 5 days of loss, right? So how much revenue is that? How much revenue are you losing, sir, ma'am? You know?
Right, right. Not to mention, hopefully everybody be okay. But last time we reported about a hospital having a significant cyber attack, a child passed away, and they kind of associated it with the monitoring system was down, so they couldn't tell that there was an issue or irregularity, and they were busy because they were going from digital charts to hand charts. So it slowed them down from checking, doing their rounds on patients. So just one cyber attack, at least to our knowledge, has caused a fatality. So yeah, there has to be some work. Unfortunately, it wasn't built in from security wasn't baked in from the onset. However, they are building well, I don't know about everywhere, but around me, they're building a ton of hospitals. I literally have 2 new hospitals in my area. One already existed, and then they just built one. They're staffing it, and then there's another one they're breaking ground on because of the population explosion down here. Because everybody's moving down to the outskirts of Tampa because Tampa's too expensive, right? But everybody's moving down. Like, no one from Tampa, no one in Tampa is from Tampa. That's the prevailing joke. Like, where are you from? No one ever says Tampa. I'm sure they exist, but for the most part, yeah, we're all transplants, right? So with that being said, with this brand new hospital breaking ground, I wonder what investment they're putting into their cybersecurity and IT department. Because you would think that you have an opportunity right now as it's being built to bake it in. But is that part of the design, or is it that they're going to have some really cool medical innovations in there as well, right? So there's that balance. So we will see. Please continue to tune in to the podcast. Hit us up at all the places that we are located. Hit me up personally at Right Security Guide. And Chris?
Hit me up on LinkedIn. Last name is spelled A Bacon.
There it is. Stay safe, stay secure.